And a very happy Tuesday. It is RCM. I am your host, Justin Myers, super producer Brendan, safely partitioned on the other side of the glass. Thanks for getting up early with us or staying up late. However you are rolling on this particular Tuesday. A lot of stuff to dive into on the big show today. Brendan sent me an article yesterday. Was this Blazers Edge?
Shout out Blazers Edge.
Blazers Edge with a lengthy article talking about the vibe and the feel and potentially Chauncey Billups going into next season as a coach on the hot seat. I am going to talk about that coming up in approximately 18 minutes as to why I feel like this is completely ridiculous. And yes, I will do another Justin takes us all back and does a history lesson. So we're definitely going to dive into that. We've got Eastern Conference Finals coming up tonight. Do the Pacers have a shot? Do the Pacers have any shot, any way whatsoever? If you look at Vegas, no, they have no shot.
To win the series or win a game? Big difference.
I think they're going to win a game.
Yeah, me too.
I do not think they're going to win the series. And
Boston
like I said,
is a wagon, Justin.
Pacers right now, 25-1 to win the NBA championship, and the Boston Celtics are minus 155. So Vegas has weighed in. Vegas has weighed in, but, I mean, stranger things have happened.
Have they?
I'm trying to think.
At 25-1
It's a
odds,
fun
I'm not discounting
phrase.
it. I just would be really shocked. Even if they got by the Celtics, I think then I just don't see the Pacers winning it all this year.
So Draymond Green brought this up a week ago and brought the Blazers into it, which is like you can.
He loves to do that.
He really does.
I noticed that now.
There's something there. He really does like to bring up the Blazers a lot. But was his point invalid just because maybe I'm not a big fan of Draymond Green? But was his point invalid? You can kind of make a fluky run to the Western Conference or Eastern Conference Finals, right? If we're all being honest, and by the way, when we go back and talk about where Chauncey Billups is, we are definitely going to go back and talk about what 2019 ultimately did to the Portland Trail Blazers. But if we were all being honest, that 2019 team, as fun as that run was, it was some of the most fun Blazer memories we've had since when? 2000?
That was 2000s vibes for sure. Or 90s.
And even then, like, the most fun we've had. It was finally clicking, right? Dame and CJ, and Dame was clearly better than Russell Westbrook in that first series, going toe-to-toe with the Denver Nuggets, who had kind of been a bit of a mini rivalry those years right there in the mid-2010s, especially with Nurkic and Nurk Fever and everything else. And so you go 7, and then you get there. And if we're all being honest, it was kind of a fluky run to the Western Conference Finals because they didn't have Nurkic.
Cantor had a bum shoulder.
Cantor had a bum shoulder. Half of the playoffs was Ramadan. He wasn't eating.
Remember that?
Remember all of that?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
it's a miracle they made it there.
Like I said, it's unbelievable that they even made it that far. And Mo Harkless started playing kind of out of his head a little bit. Like
CJ cooked in Denver to beat a young Jokic.
But like CJ's still in the league. CJ's still a starting guard in the league. Mo Harkless in the G League. He's in the G League, Brendan.
I don't know where Al-Farouq Aminu is
Enes Kanter changed his name to Enes Freedom, and he's on Fox News now. Right? That's the team. This was not 20 years ago. It was 5. It was 5 years ago. 2 of the starters on that team that made a run to the Western Conference Finals are not in the NBA.
Yeah, Chief Aminu's not even playing the NBA anymore.
Okay, 3.
I loved Aminu, dude. That shot from the shoulder.
I'm with you, but you see what I'm like? That was a run of like that was Dame at his absolute best, getting CJ. Rodney Hood, no longer in the NBA.
Well,
that's not his fault. Popped an Achilles. He would, if he was healthy, I still think he would definitely be a shooting guard in the NBA or a 3 in the NBA. But like Rodney Hood is not in the NBA anymore. So you think about like the players on that 2019 team outside of Dame and CJ, they're
Zach Collins is coming off the bench. He's still playing in San Antonio. Finally
you're
healthy.
right.
I remember who else came off the bench. That was Seth Curry. Seth Curry's
Still in the NBA.
Dude, he was the best one-year acquisition they ever had.
It really was.
I love Seth Curry, man. He was so much fun.
But just looking at that starting lineup, it's just and then you go up against Golden State Warriors and you got swept in 4. And it was also Myers Leonard, by the way. Remember Myers Leonard had his moments
That's true.
in games 3 and game 4.
I don't know why I would have forgot him.
I mean,
he'd be back
there
on the
was a
upswing.
thing, and then there was a cancellation, and then it was like, oh yeah, disassociate, and then you just kind of forget about somebody. But you can make a fluky run to the conference finals. The Blazers did it 5 years ago because they got swept, and it wasn't particularly close by a Golden State team that didn't even have Kevin Durant at that time. So Kevin Durant, I think, got hurt round 1.
Partial tear.
Strained calf, which we would then learn was a partial tear, would then give it a go and blew the whole thing out, and they would lose to Toronto. But
was what, 2 games later, Clay tore his ACL too?
Yeah.
It was a brutal run for them.
Was a really brutal run.
I think they'll take the 4 rings, though.
But that team that was still did not have Kevin Durant, and it was not particularly close.
Blazers had a lead in every game.
Because that was back when the Warriors were so good back then. The Warriors were so good back then that they... Did you ever have a cat? Did you ever have a cat growing up? I had a cat growing up.
Have one growing up? Have one right now.
Jasmine was my cat's name, and Jasmine was a good cat. Didn't bring a lot of animals in, but every once in a while, as cats do, because they are, even though they are a domesticated pet, they're a wild animal. You get a bird or a mouse around a cat, and
oh, I got one for you. Guess what my cat dragged in yesterday?
What?
Gardener snake.
I had a dog kill a gardener snake one time. Felt so proud. I felt so proud. I was like, hell yeah. But have you ever noticed, sometimes when cats, when there's an animal that they have maimed, and they toy with it. They toy with it.
You played with that thing for probably an hour and a half.
That was the Golden State Warriors in 2019.
So accurate.
The Blazers are dead. They're just we're going to toy with them.
That's your best metaphor that's maybe ever been said on this show.
It's pretty good.
That's pretty great.
Came up with that right off the top of my head.
They could just go, oh, the Blazers, 14-point lead. Oh, that's cute. Here's Steph.
It almost felt like they were bored.
It was not fair.
And we're all right, what do we do? 17-point lead at the half? All right, cool. And then it's boom, boom, boom. Hey, that's 25-3 run.
Maybe Draymond, going back to that.
Your soul is, but it felt like like a cat was let's play with him.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's just keep him around. Or there's that Mike Tyson Jake Paul fight that's going to be coming up, and
when is that?
That's June. But these pay-per-view fights that kind of started with when Conor McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather.
That was awesome.
It was not awesome. It was a terrible fight. It was unentertaining, and I firmly believe Floyd Mayweather could have ended him whenever he wanted. Could have ended him whenever he wanted. But you know what he did? He's look, I got to keep these pay-per-view numbers up. If we're ever going to sell another pay-per-view, you know what I got to do? I got to toy with this guy for about 8-9 rounds.
You want to feel old? That was 7 years ago. That feels like just yesterday to me. I can't believe that was that long ago.
A long time ago.
So that means the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight was even older. Because that one I really liked, too.
That was 9 years ago. I believe that was 2015.
Wow.
Believe that was 2015, 9 years ago.
I feel like just
think about that. 9 years ago was 2015.
I feel like 2020 just kind of engulfed some years in there, and it's from 2020 to 2022 and a half, not a lot really happened.
I'm sure there is a much more intelligent sociological thing, but one of the things the internet did ruin was decades. We don't have decades anymore. I know they exist, but you think about the style of the 80s, right? The style of the 90s, right? The 2000s was 20 years ago, Right? Think about it. When I was in high school, we would have 70s Day. It was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
20 years earlier. Seemed like forever. There's some 2000s fashion, but like for like boy bands and baggy jeans and stuff like that. But like when the internet came into our lives and it shortened everything up, like what is the style of the 2010s, right? It's not. We don't have like the 90s style. Oh, 90s party, 80s, throwback to the 80s. We're having an 80s themed birthday party. Like, we don't have them anymore.
Yeah, I would just look at the youth, Justin. Whatever the youth is wearing now, call it the 2020s.
I understand. Like, I'm not saying that there's not
Flannels back.
fashion and everything, but it's not. Bell bottoms were the 70s, right? Acid wash jeans were the 80s.
But as you told me, Justin, clothing is cyclical. Like, I've seen it now. Justin, I've seen it now on little kids. Overalls are coming back.
That's awesome. Good for them.
Turtlenecks are coming back.
I'm not a fan of turtlenecks,
like with
but
women,
I'm
seen
for the overalls.
Bangs for women are making a huge comeback.
I understand all that it's
like,
everything.
It's kind of cyclical.
But my point is that everything for a while was associated with a decade.
It's true.
And now it's like associated with like a 3-year period.
Would you say a generation or not quite?
No, more decades. Because I am of a generation, but I lived the 80s and the 90s. So I lived both. I had acid wash and popped my collar with my D-bag Abercrombie phase that I was in. But it was associated with the time. Anyways, all that being said, you can make a fluky run to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know if you can make a fluky run to the NBA Finals. I'm trying to think, when was the last fluky run? Maybe the Baby Thunder?
Dallas with Luka a couple years ago. We knew they weren't going to make the NBA Finals.
But I'm just saying, a team that made the Western Conference Finals, making the NBA Finals, that's less fluky.
Yeah.
That was what I was thinking. The Thunder, that one run when they were all kids, kind of. There was an Orlando Magic run to the finals in there as well. But we'll dive into that coming up in a bit. We've got some round ball rock. But is Chauncey Billups currently on the hot seat? Talk about that next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, we have got Eastern Conference Finals tonight. We got Western Conference Finals tomorrow. Game one's on the line. But the thing about the NBA is usually there used to be a decorum here. There used to be a gentleman's agreement, right, in this league, and it is it has changed a lot over the years, which was, let's just wait until the finals are over before we start getting a little bit crazy. Nope. Once teams start becoming eliminated from the playoffs, all of a sudden we start hearing about hot seats and coaches and coaching changes and everything else. And so it was just a couple of weeks ago. We saw the tweet from Chris Mannix. Chris Mannix of Sports Illustrated tweeted out that a lot of people around the league are keeping an eye on the Blazers' Chauncey Billups situation. And that if they do part ways, which I remember thinking at the time going, am I nuts? Did I not hear about this one? A lot of other people, apparently, that's what they have heard. That's the thing to do on Twitter now, Brendan. By the way, you see news, it's like, I'm hearing this too.
That's kind of the world
we all
I live
know
in
that
for
guy.
recruiting
Like
and
we all
whatnot.
know that guy growing up, right? It's like, did you hear about like so and so a party on Saturdays? I heard something.
I mean, rumors are our business, Justin. It really
I'm
is.
hearing the same thing. Love it. Well, I didn't hear anything about it because I don't have any sources. But regardless, Chris Mannix got all of us going like, what? What's going on there? And we talked to Mike Richmond, and it was like, does Chauncey even want to be here? Do the Blazers want Chauncey Billups here? It seems like an odd matchup. This is not the job Chauncey Billups was brought in to coach. This was not the job he was hired for. And the Blazers are in a position where you really have no good reason to fire him. Zero, zilch, none. More on that coming up in a moment. So are we at another stalemate here with the Blazers and Chauncey Billups, just as we were at a stalemate with the Blazers and Damian Lillard last year, right? Last summer, before Scoot Henderson was drafted, the Blazers were saying all the right things. We're flipping over. No stone shall be left unturned. That's the thing I was trying. Flipping over rocks. It's like, no stone shall be left unturned. We're going to exhaust all options to build a winner around Dame. We are committed to that. Dame was like, good. No more 19-year-olds, right? And we're like, well, I mean, we'll see. But it became a stalemate once they drafted Scoot Henderson, and it was clear that the Joe Cronin new Blazer regime vision of the future was that of a young team starting over. That was the vision. Again, look at all the actions that they did, not what they said. Look at what they do. They've drafted a 19-year-old guard 2 years in a row when Damian Lillard has been saying, I need some help. Now, I'm not saying who's right, who's wrong. I'm just saying the visions did not match up. Dame's vision of where he wanted to play did not match up with the vision that the Blazers wanted to take this organization. It's pretty clear. Go back, look at the actions, not the words. And it got to the point where the Blazers knew that they couldn't just trade Damian Lillard. You would take such a massive PR hit. Regardless if you feel like he is the best Blazer of all time, he is no doubt the most popular Blazer at this particular time a year ago. It was not particularly close. With what the seeming tension between Clyde Drexler and the organization, and Bill Walton's just kind of a space cadet. He is. Damian Lillard is, or a year ago was, the most popular Blazer of all time. So you couldn't just trade him, even though it fit your timeline, and nobody seemed to want to come out and say what ultimately needed to be said, which was, there's no way we can fix this team with Damian Lillard's salary and with the way Damian Lillard plays basketball. We need to rebuild. We need to restart. That's the blueprint. But nobody wanted to say it. So then they drafted Scoot Henderson. And all of a sudden they're like, yeah, I know we drafted a 19-year-old. You said you didn't want one. But, and also this guy plays your exact same position. But think you can make it work, Dame? Or do you want to be traded? Whispering around the league. And ultimately Dame finally broke. And Dame said, I request the trade. Get me to Miami. And they're like, oh, no. You're not going to Miami. You're going to Milwaukee. And then we saw deal after deal after deal of the Blazers essentially setting up what we now have, which is a rebuild. But it first started with a stalemate. And so you wonder, they've done this before. Are they doing this now? Where essentially the Blazers are like, we do not have a vision of Chauncey Billups coaching this team as it is constructed, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. Chauncey Billups was brought in to coach a veteran team that needed to learn some championship pedigree and maybe some defensive toughness to get over the hump in the playoffs that has been plaguing them in the Damian Lillard years. That was what he was brought in for. He brings he knows how to get to the NBA Finals. Remember all the stuff we heard that summer? Like, yeah, we're bringing in a guy that's never coached before, but he's been a Finals MVP. He can take Damian Lillard to the next level. He can teach these veterans what it takes to not just win in the regular season, but what it takes to win in the postseason. And Terry Stotts couldn't do that. Well, since then, Dame was hurt. Tank. Dame gets hurt again. Ish. Tank. Trade away CJ. Trade away all the contracts. Rip this thing down to the studs. Trade away Damian Lillard. And now here you go. You got a coach with now 3 years of experience coaching a team that he was clearly not brought in to coach. So how do you solve a problem like Chauncey Billups? Shout out to Broadway musicals. Because according to The Athletic's John Hollinger, and I am also reading this from Blazers Edge. I want to give both credit. I'm going to give everybody credit. But according to The Athletic's John Hollinger, he says, the topic at hand at the NBA Combine in Chicago right now is determining which teams have tipped their hand towards hot seats next season. 3 names that came up in conversations. Again, John Hollinger. With folks around the league. Memphis Grizzlies, Taylor Jenkins. Really? That guy?
That tells me his very much like Terry. I think the voice might be getting a little stale there.
That, or what's his relationship with Ja?
Right. And I think Taylor Jenkins is a heck of a coach, too.
Which is funny because the other guy on this list, New Orleans Pelicans, Willie Green, which I thought in the Zion saga of will he, won't he, and can he and can't he, I thought put a pretty good team out there on the court, but pretty good doesn't get you extensions.
Again, shown more. Both those two coaches have shown more than Chauncey Billups, despite, like you said, accurate, the deck not being there, but both those coaches, in my opinion, are better coaches right now.
Well, we're going to dive into that. I will state, and I will stand firmly, we don't know if Chauncey Billups is a good coach. I don't think we know.
Still?
After 3, and I shall make my case, Brendan. Hold on. I don't know if you could have taken Greg Popovich and put him in the Blazers situation if there would be anything else that could have been done. And also, if there is anything else that the Blazers and Blazers fans who were screaming, yes, we're tanking, we're rebuilding, would have wanted him to do. Brendan, I sat here for 2 years hearing you talk over and over and over about ping pong balls and falling and falling and falling. Did you want Chauncey Billups to win more games? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think we can sit here and definitively say he's been a good coach or a bad coach because we don't know. Because the Blazers' goal of the last 3 years has not been to win games. The Blazers' goal and what has been set up and presented in front of him was to get us more ping pong balls, please.
In the last 2 years, yes. I look back to the first year when, again, reading Neil's words, the roster's not the problem. Mm-hmm. Okay, so why did Chauncey not win with that roster either?
That
you go back and look at it.
I will tell you.
It's ugly.
I will tell you. Well, again, it's in context. So what you're saying is something that happened 2.5 years ago should determine what has happened over the last 3 years. That was 3 months into his coaching tenure. And we all knew that even with a new coach, it wasn't going to be an easy transition. There was going to be some awkwardness. And yes, they had a bad December. You have the numbers right in front of you. What were they in December? It was like
2-11 in
2-11 in December. But like most other people, I have tried to black out COVID in my life because it was the worst and it was terrible. And nobody wants to go back and think about all the dumb stuff we used to do. If you sit at the table, you can take your mask off. But if you stand up, you got to. Anyways, you remember that December, COVID was still health and safety protocols was going on. And for the better part of the second half of the month of December, the Blazers were hit with COVID and health and safety protocols over and over and over again. On top of it, Damian Lillard was hobbling around on the court so much that he would ultimately, in January, have season-ending surgery. Again, I don't know of a coach in the NBA that could have had any success in the month of, December of 21? With what was going on with the roster, what was going on with, and keep in mind, the other part of this, what happened in November of 2021? Neil O'Shea got fired. There was, I would assume, tension and unrest. Joe Cronin was an interim GM who would ultimately later become the GM, but he was an interim GM. I don't know if you could paint one bad month with COVID, with Dame injury, the GM just got fired, and simply say that's the bit of evidence we have that Chauncey Billups is a good coach. And again, I don't know if he is, but I don't think we can definitively say that he is not because the Blazers have not wanted him to win. That's the only way you can determine if a coach is good or not. And save me the development, save me the, that's for assistant coaches and players off season. Head coach's job is to win. How do you determine if a coach is good or not? It's very simple. Are you winning or are you losing? Are you improving from season to season? But the problem is the Blazers have put Chauncey Billups in a position where they did not want him to win. They were tanking. So I don't know how you evaluate him as a coach over the past 3 years. Yeah, he had a bad December when half the team wasn't available because they all had COVID. Dame was at best 70%, hobbling around with a core injury that would need season-ending surgery. And Neil O'Shea just got fired. So the Blazers hobbled into January, capped off by that ridiculous loss to the Los Angeles Lakers, where they ruined all of our New Year's Eve. I remember it very well because I was sitting at home with COVID. Everybody else was out having a good time on New Year's Eve. I was sitting at home with COVID, watching the Blazers get dunked on by LeBron and watching them dance, and ultimately everything would be shut down from the Blazers' standpoint just a handful of days later. Dame would be set to have season-ending surgery. CJ would be traded away in a month. Any other player that had, like Norman Powell, Robert Covington, would ultimately be traded away, and Anthony Simons and Yusuf Nurkic would be shut down. So in the time, July of 2021 to where we sit here in May of 2024, how many actual real games did Chauncey Billups coach? Like actual real games? 20? Probably. Okay, so the first, and I'll give you maybe the first half back 2 years ago before they shut it down again. But you just look at every scenario and every situation. He has never been put in a position where the Blazers actually wanted him to win games. Even this last year, where, now you're without Dame. Dame was traded away. Let's put a roster out, and injuries upon injuries upon injuries. And then also in a situation, again, how, if you're Chauncey Billups, who apparently is on the hot seat heading in, and again, this is from John Hollinger. Nobody from the Blazers has said this, but this is I look at some of the comments.
John Hollinger's pretty legit, though.
I 100%. But he's also reporting on scuttlebutt around the combine, which isn't saying it's not true. I'm just want to make sure that I don't get an email later. But at what point was Chauncey Billups ever given a chance to win games? Even this year, Brendan, we saw it. If they would have played Malcolm Brogdon, and I know, elbow injury, they would have played Malcolm Brogdon and Anthony Simons and set up the roster and set up the lineup where the veterans and guys they would not have made the playoffs. But they would have won 33 games. But that's not the plan, right? Because the plan was ping pong balls and scoot, which I fully accept the plan. I'm not saying the plan is wrong. I don't think you can do both at the same time. I don't think you can sit there and say, Justin, remember when they blew it with the win against Charlotte? They cost them how many ping pong balls? I don't know how we can sit here and on one hand be like, we need as many ping pong balls and as many chances in the draft as possible and as young as possible and get rid of all the bloated contracts and trade away Brogdon, who is kind of your best player. But then on the other side, I don't think Chauncey Billups can coach.
So everything you said is fair and accurate,
Yeah.
but I have to go to the other side, be a little contrarian. Who's to say the Blazers are not where the Rockets were when they had, I think, 3 or 4 years, realized Steven Silas could not coach, but wanted to keep him to tank. And then as soon as they decided to win, hire Ime Udoka.
I know.
Ime Udoka, sorry.
Ime Udoka. I'd say it's the same both ways.
You could be right, but then I think both can be true.
There's so many, yeah.
Like, Chauncey could be a bad coach. He could be a good coach. I think it's fair to say that the jury's still out.
That's all I'm saying.
But
that's all I'm saying.
He could be bad. He could be good.
You cannot blame the Blazers' failures or where they are now on Chauncey Billups. He didn't do that. He showed up to coach a team that was dismantled 3 months later.
Can you blame ownership?
You blame there's a lot of blame to go around, right? That's the problem with the sandwich that it is here. There's a lot of bread, mayo, and tomatoes, right there. There's a lot of things that go to making a tank and a lot of things that go into making a sandwich. But, I don't know. I just see, and maybe it's because I'm prone to negative. It's because social media is terrible. It's like, yeah, Chauncey Billups on the hot seat. Good. Get him out. I was there at the game where they presented him with the trophy or a plaque. He's going into the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame. Fans were booing him. Now, it's an easy target, and we talked about in the NBA, coaches become scapegoats. That's just what it is in the league. I think that's maybe my biggest problem. Is the culture of the NBA in general, which is we're tired and bored of this coach. Let's fire him and move on. Let's find another girlfriend. And it's like, I'm not saying he is coach of the year. I'm just saying never been put in a position to succeed. And to put him on the hot seat, I feel like is so disingenuous, if in fact that is happening. We got more basketball to talk about with we got some conference finals, actual teams that are actually playing. We'll talk about that coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, we got 4 teams left in the NBA playoffs. We're going to have a new champion this year. And when you look at the best players on all 4 teams, none of them have a ring. So at the end of this whole thing, Jason Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton, Luka, Kyrie, or Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Simons. We're just talking about the Blazers. Anthony Edwards. Somebody's going to have their first ring and change the narrative and change the entire point of view in which we look at their career, because that's what we do. That's what we do in sports. Like, Jason Tatum gets a ring. I think we're having a very different discussion. Who's the face of the NBA? Like, it's real easy with Anthony Edwards right now because he's fun and he curses. He says MFer in press conferences. Some people don't like that. I kind of do, as somebody that curses maybe a little bit too much.
It's true.
Let's normalize it. But
also, Justin,
like Anthony Edwards, if he gets a ring, that changes the trajectory of his career. How long before we start trying to force him out of Minnesota? Because that's going to happen, by the way. And on top of all of that, then you've got Luka and Kyrie, 2 guys that, remember, and I've probably been guilty of it as well. Too much usage rate, hog the ball too much. They're too selfish. Can't win with those guys. Well, somebody's getting a ring.
And interestingly enough, Justin, you know what else is at stake in the big picture of things that only 2 fan bases care about? Opportunity for the Celtics to take the NBA lead, as they and the Lakers both tied at 17 titles apiece, unless, Justin says 2020 doesn't count for the Lakers.
It does not count. So let's open up Round Ball Rock. Let's get to some John Tesh, and let's break down, like, who's the best player? Who's the best player left in the postseason? Let's talk about it right now on Round Ball Rock. All right. Brendan, if you were trying to build a team and you got the number 1 pick, but the pool of players you can draft from is only from the 4 remaining teams, who is the number 1 pick? Essentially, who's the best player left in the postseason? You got one pick. Who is your 1-1 if you are drafting to build a team? Jokic is gone. Giannis is gone. Embiid is gone. All of the easy answers to this question are gone. I think there are a handful of options. Tatum. I don't know if Jaylen Brown's not in there. I don't think he's in there. I think he's a very good player.
He's paid like it, though.
He is paid like it.
Makes more than Jason Tatum. So.
Yeah, Rudy Gobert makes more than all of them.
Riddle me that.
My favorite. It's my favorite stat. I love.
How about Iron Eagle?
Iron Eagle coming in and just dropping a monster stat that of all the players left, that Rudy Gobert is being paid more than all of them. But of Kyrie, Luka, Edwards, Tatum, Halliburton.
To me, it's
who's the best?
To me, it's a 2-horse race between Luka and Tatum. Anthony Edwards got to prove it on the biggest stage. Jason Tatum's been to the NBA Finals, right? Luka's been to the Western Conference Finals. I love Luke.
I know he was playing with LeBron, but Kyrie Irving is hit the biggest shot of any of the players left in this postseason.
He has.
He hit a game-winning NBA championship shot, and he hit it in those ugly old Adidas sleeved uniforms. But
let's take a step back, Justin.
But like he's like Kyrie, and I've had my beef with Kyrie. Flat Earth, dude. Come on.
Not that. Do you remember when you thought he was cooked? You did. You did. And I said, this dude has the best handles of anybody in the NBA.
When I say somebody's, by the way, nuggets are cooked. Finally.
Are they out of the deep fryer, ready to eat? Yum, yum.
Took to game 7.
But yeah, I mean, I would probably go with one of those 2 guys. But to your point, Justin,
I'm with you. I'm just saying, because I sleep on Kyrie all the time. I do. Everybody says, including you and Pounce, who we're going to talk to an hour, they're like, the basketball playing ability, and I'm like, I don't get it. But he's the only one that actually has legitimate NBA Finals.
It's true.
Moment. The guys that are left.
And here's the better question, and I actually was asked this to my buddy over the weekend. Who What happened to Kyrie in Dallas? Because either someone told him, hey, just keep your thoughts to you, because basically Kyrie stopped talking about crazy bat stuff. I'll let everyone finish that. And now he's back to being the baller we always knew, but the drama's gone.
Okay, I got it.
What happened to Kyrie's drama, which I love?
I have some
Good
thoughts.
for him.
I have some thoughts.
Someone told him,
but Dallas ain't New York. You know what I mean? And I know they were I know they were the Brooklyn Nets, but Dallas is not New York. Dallas, they care about the Cowboys, right? So I think that's part of it. I do wonder that even as someone who has been as selfish as Kyrie Irving has been, selfish. You could make a run with LeBron forever. No, I'm out. I'd like to leave. All right, well, you got something brewing here in Boston. I don't like it. I'm leaving. Right? Nope. Like, he is one of the most selfish players in the league, and that's fine. When you're that talented, you get to be selfish. We all wish we could be that selfish.
And he's got a ring, so winners get sprinkles.
He's got his ring and all of that. But I do wonder, as I am prone to do, bringing it back to college football, Brendan, I have seen multiple times, especially quarterbacks in college football, back in the olden days when you only played 4 years. That's cute. Cam Rice is going to play like 19 years of college football. But like when you were going into your senior year as a college football quarterback, so many guys, like it starts clicking. Where it's like, if I don't focus up and get straight, I'm never playing football again. And I wonder if Kyrie maybe was just like, you know what? I take a look at what happened to Carmelo Anthony and some other players around the league. This might be my last shot. This might be it. So playing with this Luka guy ain't so bad. I think it's a combination of both.
And I keep thinking Kyrie is so old, and he's only 32. Like Justin said, a lot of basketball miles.
A lot of basketball miles because he played 11 games at Duke. Like
that's true.
That's his college. I think he played 11 games at Duke.
Yep.
And then went right into the league at the age of 19. But don't you think there's something where Kyrie Irving, whether epiphany or maybe a slow-moving process, but I think there's something to Kyrie Irving who realized, there's no other team. This is it. Nobody else is going to want me. I need to figure it out. And they've kind of figured it out.
Or did, like, the Cubes just be like, Kyrie, come on, man. Like, I mean, something happened in Dallas. Your explanation.
And I think there's less drama in and around the great state of Texas as opposed to maybe around New York City.
That's fair.
What do we think of Kyrie if the whole COVID thing, I'm not here to discuss and debate the COVID vaccine because we don't do that on this show. But let's just say it brought an emotional response on both sides. And Kyrie put himself right into the middle of it.
And if he was playing in Dallas,
into the middle of it.
If he was playing Dallas the whole time, would have never even been a peep. Which
I think there would have been some fans who would have been like, because remember, everybody had to ask everybody's business back then.
That's true.
But he would have been able to play. But he became the poster child of the whole vaccine thing.
Yeah.
On top of the Nets were a complete and utter disaster.
While saying the earth was flat.
Boom.
So, I mean, it's like you did. Justin's like they say, stop digging if you're in a hole.
That being said, I think Jason Tatum's the best player left in the playoffs. All right. We got a lot of fun stuff coming up in hour number 2. Got some make or miss. You will get off my lawn. Hour number 2 coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio. It is 7 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Justin Myers with you. Eastern Conference Finals begins tonight as the Boston Celtics will host the Indiana Pacers, TD Gardens Arena. The Boston Celtics still the odds-on favorite at minus 155 to win the NBA Finals. Tip-off is set for 5 o'clock. Tomorrow night, we have got the Western Conference Finals. The Dallas Mavericks will be taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Those games will be played on TNT. NBA All-Rookie team is out. No Scoot. That's right. Blazers rookie Scoot Henderson did not make the NBA All-Rookie team, but was third in the others receiving votes category. Coming up in hour number 3, friend of the program, DEVON POUNCEY, is going to be joining the big show, but we got a jam-packed hour number 2. It starts right now on 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. Hopefully you are having a fantastic Tuesday. Coming up, we have got Make or Miss on the way. It is Tuesday. You will all get off my lawn. Had to get the lawn taken care of yesterday, though. Not that anybody cares, but had to get the lawn taken care of yesterday. Got some rain coming on the way, but yard's looking good. Backyard's starting to come to form, Brendan, right in time for the summer backyard season. I love being out in my backyard. When the sun is out, being out in my backyard is such a happy place. It really is. Are you a patio guy, a deck guy, a balcony guy? If you could
all
wave
the above,
them,
it just has to be 70 or warmer for me to be out there.
Well, I think we start at that premise. Like,
We are in Oregon, Justin. I've learned there are people who love the cold, love the rain, love to go hike. It's just, it's different strokes. But yeah, there are people who are like, yeah, I'll go outside in the rain and love it.
Yeah, I don't understand those people.
I've met all types here in Oregon, man. People who are like, the sun, oh, I moved here for the green and the rain. It's like,
And listen, I love the green. I love the mild summer, the fact that we don't get a lot of humidity, all that stuff. But yeah, the people get out in their rain slickers who don't cancel plans because it's raining. It's like, no, plans are canceled.
Oh, yeah. No, totally.
Now, what's funny is I say that, and then had a Cliff Bar mishap, almost went down. I say that. I have sat in some ridiculous weather to watch a football game, though.
Oh, yeah, me too.
And I have sat in some ridiculous weather to tailgate at said football game. So I guess I am a bit of a hypocrite. I said that with a weird emphasis there. Weird hypocrite. Because you're gonna go hiking in the rain? Like, what are you like? Yeah, are you gonna go and stand in a gravel parking lot 4 hours before a football game in the rain? Yeah, I am.
Yeah, accurate.
Are you going to be out there? Like, the game is only going to be 3 hours, and you're going to be there for. Yeah, I'm going to do all that. I am going to do all that.
Yeah, I can't. I'll say this, Justin. It's been a hot minute since I've done that tailgating biz. But
you should
one game.
Can I just say this? Because there's a lot of changes in college football, and I've always appreciated your approach to being a professional, and you want to be up there in that press. I think for one game, Beaver's Edge exclusive. Here's what tailgating in 2024 looks like.
Wouldn't be the first journal. There is a journalist with a popular radio show who likes to go cover the games from the stands sometimes. So
that's me. Are you talking about me?
No,
because I watch the game from the stands.
You don't cover games anymore.
I don't cover games anymore.
Yes,
no, I go there and I have a very good time.
But yeah, no, that could. I think we might be able to squeeze that in. I've kind of had that itch lately, so it would be fun. Especially this year with some more. The vibes this year are going to be different. That's for sure.
It is going to be fascinating to see
I'm just curious, like, people going to tailgate like normal for who's the lowest? Nevada. No, they play Nevada on the road. UNLV.
Well, you got Civil War's week 3?
That's true.
Yeah,
Civil War's the
week
marquee
3
game. Yep.
Which is going to be nuts, right? We're going to have Civil War in September. Like, that's going to happen?
I'll say this.
Like, is there going to be animosity there? Is there going to be a, hey, thanks for the memories? Like, what?
How do I put this kindly? How much animosity can there be? Like, again, I don't mean to put bad vibes into the universe. Oregon State's going to have to try really hard to not lose by 30, 40 points that game. So
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
I think, and that's not a shot at Trent Bray or Oregon State or anything. That's me believing this, and a non-Oregon fan, this is the best Oregon team I've ever seen built on paper. On paper.
Yeah.
Now,
it remains to be seen what they are going to be able to do on the actual field, and that's where I think the whole thing with Dan Lanning is going to be his.
And maybe it's
going to be his bugaboo, right?
Yeah.
Can you? And I think he can. When I say bugaboo, which has multiple meanings, I think it was a Destiny's Child song as well as a.
It's like an irritant, right?
Wasn't that like part? Wasn't there a Columbia jacket known as a bugaboo? Look that up for me, would you, real quick? I vaguely remember that the good folks at the at Columbia.
They do, they still have it, man.
Was it Gert? Was Gert the one who was, and she would always have like her son? He was like buried in ice, and he was wearing a bugaboo.
That's not, the bugaboos aren't cheap, man.
It's high quality Columbia stuff right there, dude.
Columbia is just right, down the road, right across the river. But yeah, I'm always happy to support a local business. But just that's an expensive jacket.
Well, if you're going to be out in the rain,
I'm
like we just talked about,
an expensive
tailgating out in the rain, you get yourself a bugaboo. Anyways, it was also Destiny's Child song.
But no, yeah.
But I do think the question mark with Dan Lanning going forward is going to be, can you, in an era where team building is third on the list, right? You can build a culture, and I think that's what he is doing, but on paper, yeah, you've got unbelievable secondary. You've got maybe the best quarterback room in all
talent across the board. There's no weaknesses.
But
it's on paper.
And they weren't here last year.
No. But
they weren't here last year. Now, which that might be a good thing because maybe the whole Washington thing. But like, you know what I mean? Like, how much culture can you build? And this isn't just for Oregon. This is college football across the board. How much culture can you build when you're bringing in guys from all over the place and you are piecemealing teams? Now, maybe Dan Lanning's got the secret sauce. Maybe he's got to figure it out. Also, maybe money motivates, right? Because all these guys are getting paid, right? Maybe money is a motivating factor. But yeah, that's the thing that nobody is talking about with Oregon.
Yeah.
That I like, and maybe this is grumpy old Justin yells at Cloud, but there is something. It's why football is my favorite. You could piece together a baseball team. The Dodgers are doing it, like, of the highest paid players. You can't. And
you see, speaking of which, Ohtani walked it off this last weekend. I was at Buffalo Wild Wings, so I was watching my buddy, and all of a sudden, the new interpreter's there. And my buddy's like, oh, yeah. It's so funny, Justin. Like, how about that guy getting elevated to the big job, man? And now everyone knows what the interpreter is.
Yeah.
Just funny how, like, it didn't used to matter, and now they just bring in somebody new. And,
That's got to not be a very fun job, though, being Ohtani's new interpreter, because the old interpreter embezzled $17 million from him, and now it's like, can you have any fun?
No, you can't. like you're being watched like a hawk, dude. It's like, oh, I brought a coffee. Oh, he's stealing Shohei's money.
I need a receipt for everything.
But to your point,
I'm saying in baseball, you can piecemeal a team. The Yankees did it for years, right? Where it's just like the highest paid players and put them together. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And you can play Major League Baseball without an awful lot of team chemistry. I think you can in the NFL because it is known in the NFL. We're pros here. Being a pro in college is such a new concept. We're still dealing with kids and kids' emotions and feeling the love and all this stuff. And there is a lot of hype. For good reason, and Oregon is going to have so much on-paper talent. Can Dan Lanning get them to buy in?
Yeah, I mean,
because that's the question. Like, can you get all these new guys and, like, your best defensive back is going to be a former Washington Husky? Are you just going to slap new colors on there and buy in 100% that is your mortal enemy now?
Yeah, I think Oregon State for Oregon is going to be – I don't even want to say like litmus test, but like you look at their schedule and it's like you open with Idaho, you're going to roll.
Boom.
You play Boise State. I think Boise State's going to be down this year. They just fired their coach again.
Yeah, they do that.
So maybe they're back. And then
Did Boise State miss the boat?
Oh, yeah.
Did
Boise State should have been Utah. They really should have been. Boise State should have been Utah. 100%.
How did they miss the boat? Do you think
they didn't?
Do you think that blue turf held them back?
No.
Do you think
it kept
that the snooty McSnootersons at the Pac-12 said, "Hey, we could bring in Boise"? But they got that blue turf. And I know part of it is the academics.
It was, and the Pac-12 was snooty back then, and
snooty. Well,
and you got to
remember,
Justin.
Anymore.
No disrespect, I know they have a solid, better than mine. They have a better basketball program than Oregon State. But again, nail this, Justin. Outside of football, Boise doesn't have one sport that's wrestling. Wrestling, I think they're pretty good.
Talk about,
but no relevant sports. So
we talk about certain basketball players that were born in the wrong era.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Boise was successful in the wrong era.
About 10 years too early.
They were 10 years too early. Because if Boise was doing what Boise did back in 05, 06, 07,
right,
15 years too early.
Yeah.
If they were doing that now, there'd be no way they would be left out of a conference.
Yeah, I think
they would be in the Big 12 right now. Boise would be in the Big 12.
They probably would be.
I firmly believe that.
You don't think they could have gotten the Pac-12 if Larry actually had a... Yeah, I mean, so...
I think the Pac-12 had a snootiness that maybe... And who knows, maybe the Big 12 did as well. But I think if Boise would have had the winning seasons that they had in those last years of Chris Peterson, where they could not lose. And when they did, they lost by one extra point to TCU, it seems like.
Yeah, I think...
if they would have done that in the 2020s, they're in the Big 12.
Well, just listen to this, folks. Chris Peterson at Boise State, Justin talked about it, 06-13. Okay, worst year he ever had was his last year. They went 8-4. That was the worst year. Low watermark, 8-4. 92-12 across the you think about.
I know it's insane.
Like if Coastal Carolina did that, they're kind of the new plucky upstart, right? The Chanticleers, great name, man. And say they did it, or trying to think San Jose or UNLV, like another Mountain West team, just exploded.
Well, I mean, Cincinnati did.
But they didn't sustain.
I know.
That's the thing with Boise.
But Cincinnati didn't need to because they were in the right time, and they got into the Big 12, and they were like, $31 million a year. Our troubles are over, everybody. And they also got a payout from that BCS thing. Now, they lost Luke Fickell, but that's what Cincinnati was Boise.
Wasn't, Justin, back in, the kids won't even know, wasn't whack football at 9 o'clock at night just something to be seen?
So awesome.
Dude, so much
awesome.
offense.
It was so awesome. All right, we got Make or Miss coming up. You will get off my lawn. Before we do all of that, because get off my lawn, I get grumpy. You know what I don't get grumpy about? Telling you about my good friends at DeBella. That's right, Oregon's home improvement experts. Roofing, siding, windows, bath renovations. May is here. It is the perfect time of the year to take care of all your projects. So maybe you started some of your projects and realized, I might need to call in the professionals. DeBella is who you should call. Financing, promotion of no payments until 2025. Plus, they will come to you on your schedule, provide you with a free estimate. It's easy. 15,000 plus 5-star reviews on Google. Plus, you want to save some money. How about going solar? That's right. You could potentially pay for a new roof with savings to your energy bill and state and federal incentives. DeBella has all the details on solar shingles. So contact DeBella today. Take advantage of their incredible financing opportunity of no payments until 2025 and start upgrading your roofing, windows, siding, and bath along with saving today. All right, 1 hour from now, DEVON POUNCEY is going to be joining the show, talk some NBA. Obviously, we got the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. We're going to have a new champion. And one superstar player is going to have a ring to add to their legacy, whether that is Luka, whether that is Halliburton, whether that is Anthony Edwards, whether that is Jason Tatum. But somebody's career is going to go to a different level because that's just what we do. So we'll talk about that coming up with Pouncey. We'll all get off my lawn coming up in approximately 25 minutes, as it is still a grumpy old man Tuesday. But right now, let's dive into Make or Miss. By the way, sorry to cut you off. We had the intro there, and then I looked up, and it seems like it is shooting fish in a barrel to criticize ESPN, especially First Take. When did face of the, and we do it too, okay, we do it too. When did face of the NBA become a distinction? When did it become a thing?
Bird and Magic.
But no. We never said that back then. We never said this is the face of the league.
Sure?
And we never argued about who is the face of the league. We just knew it. It was undisputed. And now it's like, here we go. This has very late 90s, early 2000s, but it wasn't who's the new face of the NBA. It was who's the next Jordan. And why don't they just come out and say it? Who's the new LeBron? Like, that's what they're trying to say. But ESPN doesn't want to insinuate that LeBron is on his way out. It's like, oh, who's the new face of the league? You mean who's the new LeBron? Because LeBron's been the face of the league for 15 years.
Yeah, because I would hope, eventually, sorry, LeBron, Father Time's going to catch up to you. It finally caught up to Tom Brady, so it's going to catch up to you too. I would say, and I think it's weak sauce until you get a title.
That's what I'm saying as well.
So it's like Justin said it perfectly yesterday. You can never, and as much as I love Damian Lillard, you will never be put into the category of elite and great without having a title, in my opinion.
Bare minimum of finals experience.
You can be
appearance. You know what I mean?
Like, yeah, is Dame one of the he's NBA 75, right? Is he one of the better point guards of all time? Absolutely. But very much like Chris Paul, I look at
Chris
them
Paul's
both,
never been face of the league.
Right, and Chris Paul made the NBA final. Chris Paul, probably the best true point guard to ever play the game since Magic Johnson. And, again, same kind of thing. So it seems lazy, Justin, ain't no thing without the ring. But it's kind of...
It's what it is.
It's true.
It's and by the way, for people like, oh, ring culture. Oh, you mean winning is a big deal, and we like to make a big deal out of winning? Yeah. Welcome to our world. It's kind of lazy, but it's also true. Can you show up at championship moments? Anyways, you didn't ask for that. You had a whole other category, but I don't know. I just saw it again. It's like, hey, Anthony Edwards has not won jack yet. If he does, then we'll talk. But until he does, he's nowhere close to the face of the league. He was really good in Hustle. It was a fun movie.
Why did the Nuggets bring out their secret weapon, Bo Cruz?
You know how good that movie Hustle was?
Because they turned Juancho Hernan-Gomez into a good basketball player.
I thought he was actually pretty good. And I was like, what's this guy's deal? It's like, oh, yeah, he stinks. Well, he doesn't stink, but...
They literally turned...
But it also shows... You know what it did show? You know how good you have to be at basketball to play in the NBA? Even being a 12th man at the end of the bench?
He's back in Europe now. He literally made Hustle and is like, I'm out. I'm going to Europe.
Was he at Utah for a while?
When the movie came out, was that... He was either last 3 years, Toronto, Utah, San Antonio.
It is Utah, yeah.
Yeah, so one of those. But yeah. No,
but I watched that movie and I'm like, yeah, this guy, he's
like,
legit.
Look at this guy. And again.
It's like, oh, no, that is not even a journeyman.
Yeah.
Not even there's a flash in the pan NBA guy. And it's like, you know how good you have to be to just be a flash in the pan.
And we should have known that 3 years ago when they put this little guy in that movie and called him Kermit, that he was going to be
the Muppets?
Anthony Edwards.
Muppets Take Manhattan? That was a great movie.
And think about it, Justin.
The Great Muppet Caper? Did you ever see that? Did your parents ever make you watch the Muppets?
Yes, but I don't think I saw that one specifically. I was more of a Sesame Street kid.
Yeah.
I was the Sesame Street generation, dude. Elmo. Elmo, I had an Elmo. Who didn't have an Elmo that you touch? I am Elmo. I mean, come on. Everybody had an Elmo, man, when I was growing up. But no, to that point, I think it's interesting because back then, to Justin's point, Anthony Edwards filming a movie with Adam Sandler about other NBA players, and he was coming off, what, you said the 20-some win Timberwolves season?
Yeah.
Nobody knew who he was.
It
And
was
it's
not
like,
the face of the NBA.
and you watch that movie now, it's like, wow, that dude had supreme confidence in a movie. Like, I don't know. I think he is special, but he needs to win a title. All right, let's get on to make or miss, Justin.
Yeah.
Chauncey Billups has to be feeling like Will Smith in Bel Air in the empty house at this point.
Just looking around, going
Like, my assistants are gone. My GM that hired me's gone.
Damian Lillard's gone.
I have
my superstar player that I was brought in to coach. He's gone too. Yeah.
He is in Will Smith in an empty Bel Air house, man.
Back when we liked Will Smith.
It's true.
Still
You
don't like
know-
Will Smith. I'm not watching the new Bad Boys movie. You gonna watch the new Bad Boys movie?
Real
I'm out.
quick.
I'm out on Bad Boys 4. Like, okay,
With
3
that-
was enough.
I was very strongly anti Will Smith for all the, and I don't need to explain, but just
Yep.
was anti. Then, Justin, I had a moment. Watch King Richard recently.
Yeah,
And I don't know if you'd seen it.
I have. Saw it
And-
before. I saw it before he slapped
Okay.
Chris Rock.
And
Which maybe changed my perspective a little bit.
And I didn't see it before. Then I remember being like, oh, I kind of wanted to see it, but I'm not gonna now. And gosh darn, man, it's like, I know you said you never finished it. I could turn on The Pursuit of Happiness and cry at the same exact time every point. Will Smith is just one of those guys where I think now we have to separate art from the artist, and he is
It's
still
hard,
a
though.
really, really good actor. Like, yeah, I was watching him like,
Is there another actor? We'll get back into Chauncey
we will.
Billups in a
We
moment.
will,
Is
sorry.
there another actor where, because of something they did, you just like, I can't see them as something else now? Because like, you watch King Richard and you're like, that's not yeah, it's Will Smith, but like, that's Richard Williams. That's Venus and Serena Williams' dad.
played the role so well.
But like now, I just like, that's the jerk that slapped Chris Rock.
Yeah, I know.
I can't
It's
I can't
hard.
unsee it. I'm trying to think of like other act. I'm sure there is.
I mean,
I
kind of in
I
the
don't want
same.
to dive into this, but like, can you look at Kevin Spacey
I
the same?
was just gonna say Kevin Spacey because again,
Have you
someone.
watched that documentary?
No,
I'm debating whether I want to watch that on the plane because I got a quick little jaunt down to California this weekend.
Yeah.
But that Kevin Spacey thing looks
family member
nuts.
Family member watched it. It's complicated because I loved him in American Beauty. I loved him in House of Cards. Obviously, that's one of my favorite shows of all time. But
I was a fan.
right, me too. And while
Usual
he
Suspects. Did you ever see Usual Suspects?
Oh yeah. While he was found innocent in a British court, I think his U.S. stuff is still ongoing. I'm not sure if he will ever act again.
No, I don't think he is.
So,
I think
we'll
he's
see.
like
We'll
he's
see.
done like dinner.
But yeah, anywho, so back to Chauncey
Yeah.
being alone in the house, Justin. And I mentioned to you this morning, are you just trying to get him to quit? Because right now
They did that to Dame.
Right,
They
so
did. They
because
did that to Dame. So you have to.
you have
do
no
have to wonder.
assistants. None. I mean, unless they're working through like the end of May or the end of June.
Now I don't know what the normal timeline of this would be, to be perfectly honest. So I am speaking out of turn here. So I don't know. Like, how important is it to have a staff full of assistants at this point? I don't know. Because you're doing with the combine, and you've got the draft coming up in what? Less than a month, right? Less than a month until the draft. I don't know how important assistant coaches are, but like, didn't they hire Chauncey Billups after the draft when they hired him 3 years ago?
Let's see. So just for perspective, I'll need to look at the draft date. So just for case in point, so Scotty Brooks got hired in August. So that's
Okay.
interesting.
Because I thought they hired Chauncey Billups like in July.
June 27th.
June 27th. So right before the draft?
So that must have been the day of the water. The
Yeah.
best Dasani move ever, Neil. Which I actually didn't know this. Just he back in the NBA. No one talked about it.
Clippers?
76ers.
76ers.
Yeah, apparently doing some. I read this interesting story that's like, oh yeah, he's like consulting for Daryl Morey, but still based in the Pacific Northwest. So he's still here.
Yeah, well,
He's
it
still
makes
here.
sense, right?
Come on the show, Neil. Explain
Again,
yourself.
Well, he would.
Come on,
all he
Neil.
would
We'd
have-
love to have you.
All Neil O'Shea would have to do is walk in and be like,
Just give me a tell-all, Neil. I know you want to.
You see all those, those, you go to Basketball Reference real quick, and you know how, like, when you pull up and there's an asterisk next to every season that they made the playoffs, yeah, those are all mine. That's what I would say if I was doing Neil O'Shea. I'd be like, pull up Basketball Reference real quick. You see all those asterisks that are good asterisks that are like, yeah, we go to the playoffs. Yeah, those are mine.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess.
The other ones, not mine.
Yeah, so I guess I'm just curious, Justin, because if you're going to have a coach in a lame duck year, I just don't know why the Blazers would commit multiple seasons of money to assistants, because assistants are not getting one-year deals. Again, to quote the great Philip Seymour Hoffman in Moneyball, one-year contract to a player means the same thing as it does to a coach. Not a lot of faith there. So nobody's going to come coach on a one-year deal unless you're pulling someone out of the G League and promoting them.
Well, I would imagine there's probably, look, a job is a job.
Sure.
For a handful of coaches.
But
now,
you
I
know
don't know
what I
if
mean?
you're going to be able to get the cream of the crop. You're not going to be
No.
like Budenholzer did when he was
did.
able to essentially put together a staff in
On the
like
fly.
4 days and get everything signed, sealed, and delivered. But you'll be able to fill out, I think,
Yeah, I
a
think
coaching
so.
roster at some point throughout the summer. Also, you got to see what the Lakers are going to do. Some other coaches are, you know what I mean? So
Is Darvin Ham available? He is.
he is.
Come on in.
I don't
No,
think he wants to because he's getting paid by the
Yeah, he
Lakers.
is.
The same with Frank Vogel's available, but he's not going to want to be an assistant coach. He's like, I'm going to sit in my big fat house with
Yeah,
this free money that is coming in. So this whole thing
Yeah.
frustrates me to no end because if in fact the Blazers are of an opinion that this is not the job for Chauncey Billups, then rip the Band-Aid off right now. Then rip the Band-Aid off right now, because I'm not saying it's the right way to go about it, but I do think if you feel as an organization that this rebuild is not like, then sit down, have an adult conversation. But
So
like
for what
this
it's
this smoke that is coming, like whether it's from Chris Mannix or now it's from John Hollinger or like any of these guys where it's like everybody's of the opinion that Chauncey Billups isn't going to be there in 12 months. And it's like, then why not rip the Band-Aid off right now?
Yeah, I have two.
And if it's to save face, like
I have a couple major
get it.
issues with that, and Justin highlighted them perfectly. It's like, for instance, like it's
and keep in mind, can I just say before you answer this, I don't think Chauncey Billups should be fired at all. I don't believe Chauncey Billups has ever been put in a situation where he can succeed as a head coach. I think he was given, even though millions and millions of dollars, he was, from a basketball standpoint, I believe he was given a raw deal. That is my piece. Yes, Brendan.
Yeah, no, to that point, I mean, like, it's not the latest we've seen a coach, like, again, just going the other way. I think it'd be crazy if the Blazers made a move, but, like, for instance, when he was let go from the Wizards, Scott Brooks was let go in June, so late June. So to sit here and say for guaranteed, like right now, Chauncey Billups is 100% safe is naive because he has no staff. So I think when
Does not have any staff,
when you look at it that way and go, I agree with you, Justin. I don't think he deserves to be fired, but he deserves to be empowered and to have an organization that's like, oh, well, you know, we just fired your brother and your whole staff, but we kind of want you to coach this next year. Can we talk extension? No, we don't really want to extend you. I mean, you texted me, Justin. You said, Blazers gonna blazer. This is exactly that, man. It is just
we just dealt with this a year ago.
Yeah,
with Damian Lillard. We dealt with this a year ago with Damian Lillard. It was clear. It's clear that as an organization, they wanted to move on from Dame. It was clear.
Yeah.
And that's, again, I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying, at some point, somebody's got to be the big boy in the room, but you force Dame's hand, and it's like, are you doing the same thing with Chauncey Billups now? Like, you technically didn't fire his brother, but you chose not to extend his brother. You did not extend his lead assistant, and now these reports from Mannix and from Hollinger, they don't come out of thin air.
No.
They don't just get plucked out of anywhere. So my point is that Chauncey Billups deserves a chance to coach a team that everyone in the building wants to see succeed. And you can't say that for the last 3 years.
So
The last 3 years, everyone in the building, or at least the important people in the building, have wanted this team to fail because failure is the only way to ultimately get back to success for certain organizations in the NBA, the Blazers being one of them. So give him a chance to coach a team without the job dangling over him night in and night out that you want to see succeed. And by succeed, I mean win games.
So let me throw this out
Because
there.
in the last
then.
3 years, you can't say you've wanted this coach to win you games. You wanted him to tank away. And I don't think it's very fair. Now, life's not fair. I don't think it's very fair to ask him to lose these games, get all these ping pong balls, and then say, thanks for the memories.
That
Peace.
was Steven Silas.
Yeah.
That was
And I
Steve-
think that was pretty dirty by the Rockets. That being said, the Rockets done anything significant?
They're pushing for play-in this year, so
Play-in,
yes.
yeah.
And they have pieces
We'll
in
see.
Jalen Green and Alfred Sengun who are better than anybody the Blazers have.
Sports
right now.
Universe has a way of dealing with people organizations like that, though.
But yeah, no, like for instance, 3 years of Steven Silas to tank to get picks.
Yeah.
1755, 20 wins, 22 wins, and then was let go. Now I'll just ask you this, Justin: Are we sure that chatter at the combine is not maybe Blazers staffers or execs or whatever going, all right, guys, we're going to keep Chauncey one more year. We're going to lose big again. And are they setting up a last ditch where they're like, we'll have a coach that doesn't want to be here? And like, could it be just like trying to set up one more massive tank? Because again, Justin, you know this, Joe Cronin and his staff, obsessed with the draft, next year's draft, got some goats in it.
It's weird because I spent more time than I care to admit taking a look back at the Timberwolves, taking a look back at the Pacers, taking a look back at these teams that Oklahoma City, they were tanking, right? Even going back to Philadelphia. It seems like 3 years is kind of the sweet spot, right? You can kind of get things going in the right direction after 3 years of tanking. But here's the problem with the Blazers. Where did the tank start? Where did it start? Are we in year 2? Or are we in year 4? Or are we some sort of hybrid year 3?
They were tanking when they told Dame they were getting. Like we know. Like Justin and I have looked at the math. Like the only move they did for Dame was Jeremy Grant. That's it. That is the only move.
But I will say, in a non-tanking way, remember they extended Nurkic before they ultimately traded him away. We'll see what happens with Anthony Simons this summer. But that's where, like, you go back, you look at Oklahoma City, right? 20, 21, 22. Tank. Last year, 40 wins in the playoffs. This year, number 1 team in the West. It took them 3 years to bounce back, essentially, from Damian Lillard literally waving their organization away. It took them 3 years. The Pacers took them 3 years.
Now, what we've talked about
to bounce back, and it took the Cavs after LeBron left. It took the Cavs about 3 years. My question, where are the Blazers at?
I mean, you just mentioned
You
teams,
talk about the Houston Rockets. They're in year 3.
right? And not to say that he can't be, because I who knows, right? I will say this. I still believe in Chauncey Billups if he's got the right team in the right situation. But Justin, all those teams you just mentioned, Hall of Fame coaches. Rick Carlisle, Hall of Fame. The other 2 teams again.
Well, Oklahoma City doesn't have a Hall of Fame coach. They went and got a guy from the G League, and he turns out he's pretty coach of the year.
Mark. I mean, but yeah, what if they fired?
I don't even know his name. That's how good he is.
Yeah, what if they fired Mark Daigneault after last year? Right? After they could have, right? They could have been like 3 years not winning.
This is why I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
Maybe I'm making this personal, which has been known to happen, but I was laughed at sometimes by my producer when I was saying, I'm sick of all this tanking talk. I was like, Justin, they got to do it. And I was like, okay, fine. You're going to tank. Ping pong balls, you got to get drafts, picks. Everything to get picks, nothing to get wins. We care about picks, we don't care about wins. Well, Chauncey Billups got you an awful lot of picks. He didn't get you an awful lot of wins. So I don't know how you can legitimately say, well, he should be on the hot seat. It was like he was asked to get picks, not wins. Let the man coach a team that you want to get wins, is all I'm saying. All right. Coming up next. Boy, I've been grumpy already, but should the grumpiness continue? I mean, it is tradition on the show. It is also Tuesday. We got to get all the bad vibes out. So, you shall all get off my lawn. as we have some grumpy old man complaints coming up next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, it is time to wrap up hour number 2. Looking outside, it's a little cloudy. It's a little gloomy. It's going to get a little rainy. It's going to be back to rainy in the 50s. Isn't this the month of May? And it is also Tuesday. Now, some, like Seinfeld said, Tuesday has no feel. I disagree. I think Tuesday has got a feel, and that feel is grumpiness. We all get a little bit grumpy. We all get a little bit short. We get a little bit quick-tempered on a Tuesday because on Monday we have hunkered down for the week, and we have braced ourselves for the work week ahead. And by Wednesday, well, you have reached the top of the mountain. Thursday, Friday, you go rolling into the weekend, but it is Tuesday. Tuesday. That's an internet thing, by the way. Tuesday. It is one of those tough days where you're just like, "Gah, this week is dragging on." And so you get some of that grumpiness inside you. And it makes you, a little bit irritated, a little bit flustered, a little bit fired up over certain things. So we say, let's let that out. And when I say we, I say me because I get to be the one to do all of the venting. But you should do it as well. I just get to do it in front of a microphone. We call it Get Off My Lawn. Brendan, I can't believe I'm going to say this. I can't believe I'm going to do this. Costco needs to get off my lawn. Oh, Costco, I am not happy with you. Costco needs to get off my lawn. Now, here's the thing. Let me preface this by saying I love Costco. I feel like there's going to become a point in my life where everything that I need is at Costco. And if it's not at Costco, well, then I just don't need it. But I'll tell you what Costco needs to stop doing. We need to stop moving stuff around. Can we all just agree as a society that, we put up with, even though I know Brendan says he never goes on the weekends, we put up with the fact that you have a parking lot that is too small and a store that is too big, and therefore leading to near catastrophes every single Saturday and Sunday afternoon. We put up with that. We put up with the fact that you are still the only place that still checks our receipt, even though you're not even really checking the receipt on the way out. You just want to make sure that we have it. We put up with all that because Costco is great. I think the rotisserie chicken, just in and of itself, hot dogs for $1.50 with a soda, and just getting everything you could possibly need. But here's where I am getting a little bit frustrated because there are staples. Brendan, I'm sure just like the Slaughter household, the Myers household, we have Costco staples. And I'm getting a little sick of them moving stuff around. Now, I know there's probably some science to it, and I know there's probably some consultant that they paid $1 gajillion for that says, hey, if you just start moving stuff around, people will then have to go down every single aisle, and they won't just come in, get the stuff they need, they leave, and they might actually buy more stuff. But to that I say, why the inconsistencies? Because you know what? I know when I walk into a Costco, that rotisserie chicken ain't going anywhere. It's going to be in that spot every single time. And by the way, you know why they put it in the back? It's because they know you're going for it. They want you to walk through all that Costco. Does the toilet paper ever change? No. Mm-mm. Put that way in the back too, by the way, because they know that you're going for it. So I am a man that enjoys grilling. Now, some may say that my Traeger grill is not a real grill because it is a pellet smoker. I don't care. It makes food taste delicious. And I look like a 5-star Michelin or 3-star Michelin chef, 5-star restaurant, when I make food on my Traeger. And Brendan, I am a year-round Traegerer. I'm out grilling every single month of the year. Snowing, raining, hailing, summer heat, doesn't matter. I'm going to be outside grilling. I don't wait until the summer to grill. I grill all year round. So your boy needs Traeger pellets all year round, and Costco does a great job with them. Here's the problem. They keep moving them on me. About once a month, I need a big old bag of Traeger pellets. And you know what they do? Every single month, they're in a different spot. Sometimes I walk in, they are front and center. Boy, that's a good day for me. I feel really good about it. Check that off the list. Boom. Some days, it's back by the gazebos. You know, right before you get to the meat and the produce, it's right by the gazebo. You know where I found Traeger pellets last time I went to Costco? by the antifreeze, tucked in the back corner with windshield wiper fluid and antifreeze. Now, how does that?
That's pretty bad.
That's pretty bad. All I'm saying is, can we just end the madness of moving stuff around? Like I said, there's probably some science to it. But you know what? Other than Costco, you know what other place that I love to go shopping at? Brendan, you know this. I love the Home Depot. I love the Home Depot. And you know what I also love? I love, because I am a man in his 40s. I love getting on that Home Depot app. And if I know exactly what I need to get at the Home Depot, and then I plug it in the app, and then I take a look at my particular Home Depot store, shout out Clackamas, Brendan, it tells me exactly where in the store you can find it.
Yeah.
Exactly where I can find it. That is going to be aisle 26. That is Bay 14. They don't make it a secret at the Home Depot where the stuff is. They don't make me looking through lug nuts and PVC piping when I need to get to the drywall screws, do they? No. Because Home Depot knows you're going to be back. Just like Costco should know you're going to be back. The Home Depot knows, you're going to do something yourself, you're going to screw it up, and I bet you're going to be back. And you know what? They're right. But you know what? When I do go back, Home Depot lets me know where everything is. They let me know exactly what aisle, what bay, and everything. So much so that you ever ask somebody in the orange apron, they don't know where anything is. Because the app tells me. I get on the Costco app, and I say, hey, where are we going to have the coffee pods today? And the app just goes, good luck. I mean, it doesn't, but it might as well. It might as well just say good luck.
Coffee pods haven't moved.
Sometimes they move, though.
You must not go to Wilsonville very often.
No, I don't ever go. I go to Clackamas, dude.
Oh, yes.
I live in Southeast. I got a Home Depot. I got a Winco. And I got a Costco. That's where I'm going. And when I go to my Costco, and by the way, the Clackamas Costco, I've told you this.
Wilsonville is Bay.
The parking lot is 3 times too small.
Like all Costcos are.
But I think this one's worse. I don't know. Maybe it's just because of but I feel like Clackamas is the absolute worst one. But do you have the Costco app? Because I do. I love the Costco app. But you know what it doesn't do? What the Home Depot app does, let me plug in a store and be like, oh, yeah, that's right there. I'm still going to buy all the stuff from you, Costco. I'm still going to be showing up all the time. Can we stop with the... We stop with the little puzzle, the treasure hunt? I know that the toilet paper is going to be where the toilet paper goes, and I know where the rotisserie chicken goes, by the way. Those are also going in my cart with the Traeger pellets. So, how about my specific coffee pods, these ones right here, Brendan, these Kirkland Signature.
They're right next to the breakfast ones I buy.
They switch them. Different, like left, right side of the aisle. And sometimes it's right in front of the frozen foods. And sometimes it's down the coffee aisle. And sometimes it's over where the cheese is.
You go more than once a month?
About once a month.
Yeah, about
once a month. And then, but just enough. So to Costco, switching stuff around and throwing me off my game. You need to get off my lawn. Hour 3, though, is next. 620 Rip City Radio. It is 8 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Justin Myers with you. NBA Western and Eastern Conference Finals get underway this week. Eastern Conference Finals tip off tonight. Boston Celtics will be hosting the Indiana Pacers. Tip time at 5 o'clock on ESPN. Now that the Knicks aren't in there, who's ESPN going to cheerlead? That got real bad, by the way. Tomorrow night, you got the Western Conference Finals as Dallas and Minnesota tip it off. Those games going to be on TNT. Trailblazers rookie Scoot Henderson did not make the all-rookie team, but was third in the others receiving votes category. That's kind of like my honorable mention for All Far West League in 1997. We've got DEVON POUNCEY joining us in 20 minutes. We've got an RCM mailbag. Could teams get booted out of the club in college football? What are we talking about? Well, third hour Rip City Morning starts right now, 620 Rip City Radio. Hey, welcome back to Rip City Mornings, everybody. We've got more basketball coming up with DEVON POUNCEY in 20 minutes. We will have an RCM mailbag. Brendan, you were asking me off the air, you were talking about if I was ever a Mountain Dew guy. You said, were you ever a Mountain Dew guy? I don't know how to explain it, but believe it or not, circa 1993, like Mountain Dew was the coolest thing you could drink. It was kind of like Red Bull before Red Bull. Like if you were into extreme sports, you do the Dew, baby. And we may dive into maybe even a mailbag question of what are some of the things that have really taken a turn reputation-wise, products. Mountain Dew might be one of them. Red Bull might be another one too.
Don't hate on my Red Bull.
I'm not, but I saw a
I'm
TikTok.
gonna crush a ton this next week.
You got to slow down on that Red Bull, dude.
Haven't really had one since my last vacation, so excited to...
I guess you don't drink them daily.
I don't. Only on vacations, baby.
I knew people, because, again, you work in morning radio. Now, my energy drink of choice is coffee. Just regular brewed coffee. That's my energy drink of choice. Dude, I knew people, would hammer energy drinks back to back. And I'm like, I don't know how you're making it. But back when I was in college, I used to joke my breakfast of choice was walking to... And see, now this... This I could not do at my age anymore because I'd have a maple bar and a Red Bull on the way to class. Yeah.
Classic. Breakfast of champions right there, dude.
Maple bar and a Red Bull. All right.
We're so good. So good. Even think about it now, I'm like, oh.
Maple bars are a good idea until you're halfway through it, and then you're like, whoa.
You're so right. You are
just
so right.
halfway through a maple bar,
you regret it.
This is too much.
The maple is sticking in your teeth, and you're just like, come.
But that first bite.
Oh, it's delicious.
That first bite of a maple bar. But you get halfway through a maple bar, and you're like, oh,
he's so
I don't know if I should have gone on this journey. All right. I did want to talk about this. This is from Mike Farrell, which is a sports blog.
He used to be with Rivals and then started his own recruiting service. Sorry, he's really familiar to me.
There you go. You know who Mike Farrell is.
He's a good guy.
I'm glad you know that because he wrote on here. There's a guy named Pete Cordelli. I don't know who Pete Cordelli is, but he is a ACC insider, and he said on a radio show recently, he said the ACC is seriously considering firing low-revenue programs, kicking the low-revenue teams right out of the club, because here's where the ACC is in a bit of a pickle. And if you don't know this by now, you ain't been paying attention. Football is all that matters. Academics don't matter. Basketball doesn't matter. Other non-revenue sports, they do not matter. Football is the only thing that is the lifeblood of a conference. If you don't have football, you don't have a conference. Ask the Pac-2, right? You don't have football, Pac-12 could have stayed together with every non-revenue Olympic sport. Remember all the Olympic sports we were all obsessed with in the Larry Scott era? Yeah, you don't have football. you don't have
Wait, national
conference.
TV networks don't care about rich people in LA getting fake scholarships to
Nope.
send their kids to USC volleyball?
Well, they care about the trial when you show up. That's fun to watch. But
like
no.
that's what the Pac-12's known. Like, you know what I mean, Justin? Like
Yeah.
the fact that like that fits in. Like, oh yeah, the Olympic sports are such a big deal. They made a documentary about how people exploited it.
So the ACC, who is in a bit of a pickle because now that the Pac-12 is eliminated, they are now in last place, right? The Big 12, I would say, is a distant third behind the SEC and the Big 10, but they're still, I think, head and shoulders above the ACC because they are getting $30-some million a school, whereas the ACC is locked in a terrible, I think 21. They're like $10 million a school off.
Until 2036.
Boom. So the ACC is in trouble, and they know this because Florida State and Clemson are spending millions upon millions and upon millions of dollars of hiring lawyers to try to find a loophole out of this terrible contract. Well, the ACC's new plan is, well, here's what we could do. Florida State, Clemson, North Carolina, and Miami. Those are our power brands. How do we get them more money? How about we kick some teams out of the league? So we got Stanford and we got Cal and we got SMU coming in. They're not paying a dime. We are not paying them any money whatsoever, so we're keeping the pot pretty much full. So now, believe it or not, Duke University might be in a bit of a tight spot.
Mike Elko just left, and that
Virginia might be in a tight spot. Any of these programs in the ACC who are not, so here we go. Duke, Wake Forest, Boston College, Syracuse. The ACC is apparently seriously considering firing them. Now, there's a college football obsessed radio host in this particular city that said, if you don't think that teams aren't going to start being kicked out of conferences because they can't hold up their end of the bargain, then I've got some oceanfront property in Arizona to sell you. Shout out to George Strait. Because if Oregon State and Washington State and 100 years of tradition and 100 years of the Pac-12, 10, 8, Civil War, Apple Cup, all that, if that can't withstand conference realignment, what does the ACC care about Wake Forest? What? What are they? Hey, Tim Duncan and Chris Paul. Yeah, I got that. Basketball doesn't matter. Basketball doesn't matter. Wake Forest, Duke, Boston College, Clemson. You could all get kicked off to the Big East and play against Creighton and play against Villanova and play against all those schools because we don't care anymore. And I said this. I called this. I said, you watch. The Big Ten's going to start looking at Purdue. The Big Ten's going to start looking at Indiana. The Big Ten now, maybe there's a little more tradition in the Big Ten because you've got these big, massive alumni bases, but there are going to be some of these teams. The ACC is going to start, or the SEC is going to start looking at South Carolina and being like, hey, South Carolina.
I know you.
What have you done for me lately?
You say South Carolina. What about Vanderbilt? You always say they got the money, but if
they got a lot of money and a lot of political influence because a lot of really smart people go to Vanderbilt and
they're really bad at football and really bad at basketball.
They are, but the politicians who make policies that could be troublesome, they went to Vanderbilt, which is why Baylor is always going to be in the Big 12.
I could see Vanderbilt in the Big 12. They belong. Vanderbilt does not belong in the SEC. Like, you think about what we know about. But
there's a reason why they're still there after all those years. But you're right. I know it's why Northwestern's always going to be in the Big 10. It's because you got to keep one nerd school.
Well, so here's a question.
You got to keep one nerd school. Except for the ACC's looking to boot out Duke, which is their biggest nerd school.
Who's the nerd school left in the Pac-2? Is it the Beavers or Cougs?
That's a good question.
Who's smarter? That's a good question.
This is
Beavers or Cougars? Who's smarter? Academics, Justin.
Because you got engineering, and then you got but the Cougs do a lot of like dairy and like brewery stuff, and I mean I don't know who would be the nerd school. But you got to have at least one nerd school, right? Baylor.
They are within earshot. So Oregon State is 363rd in national ranking.
Oh, they do rankings like that, huh?
Yeah, Washington State is 380.
Who's number one? Harvard?
Yes. Yep. Northwestern's up there, as you mentioned. Vanderbilt's up there. Yeah. Stanford.
Well, I guess maybe if the ACC, since they're bringing in Stanford, can they kick out Duke because they got another nerd
Cal's
school?
a really good academic school, too.
Yeah, but Stanford.
No, I know, but like
I was saying,
Cal
Phil,
is
you
not
got
a slouch.
you got one nerd school you got to keep, and you can boot out the rest. But like
Justin, I learned in a movie, as it turns out, like this thing that we made around World War II was largely out of Berkeley. So
is that with Oppenheimer?
yeah.
Still haven't seen Oppenheimer.
Oh, God, that's disappointing. I've seen it probably 6 times.
You've seen it 6 times?
Oh, it's so
like
good.
5 hours
it's
long.
3, and it is fantastic.
It's like 5 hours
I could
long.
watch it. It's one of those movies I could watch over. Please watch it on the plane, Justin. Please, just you would love the source material.
I'm gonna watch Iron Claw.
Oh, my brother just.
I think Iron Claw is what I'm going to be watching on the plane.
Yeah, he said it's great.
Because I asked Kelly if we could watch Iron Claw, and she said, "Tell me what it's about." And I go, "You're not going to like it."
My brother said it was good, but no, please, just at some point, watch like 30 minutes of Oppenheimer and tell. Yeah, it's like I swear by it. Anyway, back to your point.
ACC's going to kick these nerd schools out, like Duke and Wake Forest. Like I said, if you didn't see this coming, you have not been paying attention, and we are learning more and more every single time. Football is all that matters. Can you bring in football revenue? Because you would think, like Miami has no long-term tradition with the ACC. The Miami Hurricanes were a Big East school forever. They were a Big East school when they were the U, and then they got kind of brought in. But Miami is off the because they bring in football revenue.
And they've got crazy boosters, too.
Crazy boosters, a football tradition. People watch the Miami Hurricanes still on TV. Nobody watches Wake Forest football. So it sounds like a rumor, but does not surprise me one bit. Keep an eye, by the way, on that, because if, in fact, Duke, Wake Forest, Syracuse, and what was the other team? Boston College, if they get fired, kicked out of the club, ACC's going like, guys, sorry.
The Pac-2 is open for business, Justin.
Does the Big 12 expand? Does the Big 12 look to go coast to coast? Or does the SEC maybe look to kick out? Now, the difference is the Big 10 and the SEC, they're not in contract heck like ACC is. So they don't need to kick anybody out. They're on a gravy train with biscuit wheels right now, and everybody is kind of fat and happy. I mean, Oregon and Washington are on 50% deals, and they're like, we're good. Don't worry about it. So I don't think so, but keep an eye on this situation in the ACC. All right, coming up next, we're going to talk some more hoops. DEVON POUNCEY, our good friend, joins us next, 620 Rip City Radio. was a little weird not having basketball last night. I didn't like it. Was not a fan. But we do got basketball tonight as the Eastern Conference Finals tip off 5 o'clock from TD Gardens Arena. You got the Indiana Pacers taking on the Boston Celtics, and then of course the Western Conference Finals tomorrow. And we will have a new champion crowned. It will be the sixth different champion in 6 different years. And we're very excited to talk to our next guest about somebody's career is going to have its trajectory massively altered in a very, very good way, because you've got a lot of young stars searching out for their first ring. Who is it going to be? Well, that and a whole lot more with our good friend, DEVON POUNCEY, basketball analyst from the Rib City Remix, but most importantly, a friend of the program. Pounce, good morning, bud. How we doing?
Good morning. Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. A lot of fun stuff to dive into. Let's go back, shall we? Let's go back to the Game 7 in Denver. And when you saw, like, finally, after 3.5 games, the Minnesota Timberwolves kind of woke up after they looked like they were going to cruise control into the win. Obviously, the Nuggets then took over. They get a nice win in Game 6. But, man, the defense that was cranked up and the effort that was cranked up that threw off the defending champions, Pounce, was not something I saw coming, because I saw a Denver Nuggets team that looked like they had everything in hand, and Minnesota just flustered the heck out of them. Is that what you saw in that game?
Yeah, they definitely did. But I think we saw signs of that throughout the course of that series. I mean, obviously, you consider the first 2 games that Minnesota won on the road. You knew that there were some capabilities late in that game, in Game 7, that, hey, Minnesota has gears. And they also obviously showed that in that Game 6 win at home. And they just needed to kind of tap into that gear and take it up a notch, and they did just that. And defensively and really just athletically overall, they just overwhelmed Denver over the course of 7 games. It took them 7 games to do so, but they were able to kind of tap into the fact that, hey, we're the more athletic team. If we just put our all, and we've got everything to lose here in the Game 7, because if we don't win this game, it's all over. Let's just put our all into locking down defensively, trying to turn this game around after being down 20, and they did just that. So, I mean, I think it's just safe to say that the athletically superior team won. I don't quite know if the better team won. That's obviously why those 2 teams went to Game 7. Those are 2 really good teams there. But I will say the athletically superior team won, and that does tend to happen when you get to a Game 7, because both teams are dog-tired. You know, they've been playing a battle of a series, which is why they got to a Game 7. And once Minnesota cranked it up, it just ended up being too much too late for that of Denver. And huge congratulations for Minnesota. And I'm honestly happy to see them move on and advance to the conference finals.
I mean, it is an impressive thing when you see what Minnesota has done, because and I think Karl Anthony Towns even joked around about it afterwards. I would play the clip, but they curse too much, which I kind of find funny. They curse a lot in the post game press conferences.
They get after it for sure.
Make it hard to play the clips on the radio, but I kind of, as a fan, kind of find it funny. But Karl Anthony Towns kind of mentioned where it was like, man, we've been losing for so long. Like, how much do you want us to lose for? But I think it is an impressive kind of switch that was flipped, not only for like a guy like Anthony Edwards, but just Minnesota in general, a team that, Pounce, we never associated the Timberwolves with hard-nosed defense, right? Usually, like, it was the Knicks and Thibodeau and the way that he coaches, but it was never like a team. But for whatever reason, they just figured it out, especially in this postseason, of cranking up the physicality, using that to their advantage, getting the officials on their side, and have really kind of changed the way we view Minnesota, because they were never a team where you looked at as a physical defensive team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, they weren't that, but I think they have been ultimate competitors. I mean, I think that starts with Anthony Edwards. I think even Karl Towns being able to tap into the competitiveness that he tapped into doesn't happen without Anthony Edwards, which is what makes Anthony Edwards so impressive as a young superstar in the NBA. Obviously, he's kind of got this kill switch, and he's got this mentality that by any means necessary. He wants to go out there and win. He wants to go out there and get the job done. And I think Minnesota as a team overall, and obviously as a coaching staff, shout out to Chris Finch, they received that identity. They're letting him be himself, which is maybe why you get one too many cuss words in the press conference. But you can kind of afford that when you go out there and compete as hard as Anthony Edwards does out there. And I think it's trickled down across that entire roster and throughout that entire organization. So you got to kind of take the good with the bad. Hey, the good is they compete all out, and they were able to win and beat the defending world champions. But at the same time, you might get, too many cuss words in a press conference after getting a huge victory like that, and the Big Show might not be able to play the clips, on the morning show. So that's just kind of what you got to take with it. But I do think that team has allowed Anthony Edwards to fully be himself and to come into himself at a really young age, just 22 years old, and I give them credit for doing that again, especially Karl Anthony Towns, who has been an all-star in this league already. He's 5 years older than Anthony Edwards, and he's kind of playing that supporting role to AE, knowing that this young man is now the face of the league and is really turning into something like we've never seen before, or maybe we have in Michael Jordan. But either way, shout out to the rest of that team and those vets that are kind of just, coming around and really rallying behind Anthony Edwards, who has been the ultimate competitor and the ultimate young star at his age.
DEVON POUNCEY, friend of the program, joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. We were talking about this earlier today, Pounce. When you look at the four teams that are left, you've got Kyrie there. And I want to talk about Kyrie separate from what we're about to talk about coming up in a moment. But you do have this slew of young talent, Tatum, Halliburton, Luka, Anthony Edwards. Maybe even throw Karl Anthony Towns in there. Maybe you throw Jaylen Brown in there. But of those four teams, their best players are guys who have yet to win a ring. And we've talked about kind of the changing of the guard that is going on in the NBA and how we are seeing emerging new superstars. But if you look at the players left in these NBA playoffs, who's the best? Who's the best player left in the NBA playoffs?
I think I've said this on the show before, and it was part of the reason why the OKC-Dallas series was my favorite, and I'm going to say it again. I still think Luka Doncic is the best player remaining in the postseason. Like I said, I think I've said it on the show before and definitely on my podcast as well. I probably went to about, give or take, 30 NBA games this season, and off of just the pure eye test, no analytics, no numbers, although some good numbers were produced, no any of that, but just the pure eye test, the best player that I saw with my own two this season was Luka Doncic. And the way he just can control a basketball game, obviously the point forward vibes that he gives, he's just such a spectacular player, and he's hard to kind of be wavered a little bit. And the fact that he's had all that pressure for all of these years of literally having to carry that Mavericks team, this is the first year that I think they put something around him that could push him to a level to ultimately becoming a champion. And here he is going back to his, second conference final in 3 years. But I think this is the best supporting cast he's ever had, which is why Dallas has been playing so well. But I still think Luka's the guy. I would love to see, to be honest, Anthony Edwards take it to him. But he's got another battle on his hands. Obviously, he should be confident with his team being able to beat the defending champs and beating Joker, who was just one of the guys I didn't get to see with my own two this year because he didn't play when Denver came to Portland, okay? Wasn't my fault. He decided to sit out. That was one of the games, the 15 games that he was able to sit out, en route to yet another MVP. But I do think Luka Doncic is still the guy. I think, obviously, Anthony Edwards is on his way and legitimately has a chance to kind of hop and skip over Luka and becoming the best player in the league based on the guys that are remaining. So I'm going Luka with that one.
Kind of looking ahead into the future because you mentioned Jokic. I'm going to throw in Giannis a couple of years ago. We have seen it where these guys get a a championship bump, right? Basketball nerds knew all the stat stuff when it came to Jokic, but the rest of the world didn't quite wake up until they swept LeBron last year, won the finals. He did the whole thing of like, I can't go to the parade, I want to see my horses, and he kind of became a household name. We saw a handful of years ago when Giannis kind of took over the NBA, and obviously that series went 6 games, but man, he had some monster games, and he became more than just a basketball superstar. He became kind of a global superstar and like average Joe sports fan. And you look at now these guys, Luka, you mentioned, Tatum is another one. Halliburton's going to be tough, but you never know. And then you throw in Anthony Edwards, like one of these guys, Pounce, and I know we talk about the face of the NBA and all that stuff, but one of these guys is going to have a completely different career in about a month and a half when this whole thing is said and done.
Yeah, one of these guys are definitely about to ascend. You know, it's a changing of the guard, and it's good to see. I think it's great for the game. I think it's the perfect year to kind of ascend as well and become sort of the face of the league, because all of those guys you name will also be playing, you know, in the Olympics this summer. Halliburton will be, you know, he made Team USA. Tatum made Team USA. Anthony Edwards made Team USA. I'm sure Luka will probably play, you know, for his country as well this summer. So I think on top of the fact that obviously they get a chance to try to go out and compete and reign supreme in the NBA, which is the greatest league in the world, that can kind of carry over into them being able to play and compete in the World Games as well. So I think this is just one of those unique years where, you know, as a basketball star, you could kind of take over the NBA, you know, and I think it's good timing for us to be able to kind of get a new champion and just get a new face in the NBA, you know, especially because, you know, the guys that have been the face of the NBA, if you will, have been that for quite some time. You know, you got to obviously shout out Joker for what he's been able to do, you know, winning 3 MVPs and you know, having won a world championship last year. But I just think overall this is a great time for basketball, and I think basketball fans should embrace it. Although it may look pretty new and in a lot of cases unfamiliar, I think that speaks to just the growth of the game and the fact that, you know, there's a new wave coming in. And even, you know, for that matter, I think Portland fans should be happy, you know, in the stage that the Blazers are kind of in right now with a really young team kind of in this rebuild phase, to see that, you know, the league is going young and that these young teams are starting to ascend and kind of take over the NBA. You should feel that maybe, you know, Portland isn't as far removed as it may feel just based on, you know, sheer wins and losses this past season, and that, you know, the league is kind of changing into a different direction, and maybe, you know, the Blazers will catch on here soon enough with the young roster that they have.
DEVON Pouncey, he is a basketball analyst for the Rip City Remix. He is a friend of the program. He's joining us here on 620 Rip City Radio. You mentioned it, and we got to talk about this because I'm fascinated by this now. I can't not think about it. You mentioned Team USA, right? Team USA has got Tyrese Halliburton, Jason Tatum, and Anthony Edwards, right? Those 3 guys are going to be competing for an NBA championship. You just mentioned it. The new guard, potential new faces of the league, and they're going to be on Team USA with Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard. Pounce, how is this power struggle going to play out in Paris? Because I don't think the old dogs are ready to give up the porch, if you know what I mean. But yet here come, like, you know those old stories in the documentary of the 92 Dream Team where Jordan came in and told Magic and Bird, no, it's my league now. Now you are going to have different factions. This is going to be fascinating. I know I'm kind of creating drama that may not be there, but, man, I would love to be a fly on the wall in some of those closed practices.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but I also think that, you know, this is a different time from when Jordan played, and internationally, the game is just much better than the competition, you know, that the Dream Team had to play against in 92. You know what I'm saying? So I think for the older guys, it's like, hey, this is all about helping cement your legacy as well and going out and winning, you know, another medal for those that have won already, obviously the LeBrons and the KDs, but y'all might want to lean on these young guys this time around a little bit more, because you can be beaten. You know, this is not easy competition anymore like it has been as in years past during these Summer Olympic Games. So I think if they're the older guys, they need to embrace that, hey, we got some guys that are really good with young legs that we're going to need everybody that we have on this roster to go out and compete and ultimately win a gold medal. And I think if there's any time that pride shouldn't get in the way, it's, going out and playing for your country and trying to ultimately keep this tradition of America being the best in this sport. Because if America doesn't win in the Summer Olympics, we're already talking about, how, these guys from overseas are taking over the NBA. The conversation is really going to change in the favor of, these guys overseas if the U.S. can't go out and win a gold medal. So I think they need to put that pride to the side and just secure the gold. That is it. That is all. Even if that means you got to ride Anthony Edwards or Tyrese Halliburton or Jason Tatum to the finish line to do so and support them, again, kind of the way that a lot of those Timberwolves guys have done with Anthony Edwards, for example. I think the vets, that'll be playing on Team USA kind of need to take that same approach that maybe a Karl Anthony Towns and a Rudy Gobert have taken and just kind of rallying behind that of Anthony Edwards. I think that same approach needs to be taken by the vets on Team USA when it comes to the young guys on that roster out in Paris this summer.
All right, Pounce, one last thing before we let you go. I want to talk about Kyrie Irving because it's kind of fascinating. Kevin Durant seems to get no credit for the two finals that he won and finals MVPs that he won. And a lot of that is because, the whole bus driver and bus rider and all that stuff.
Right.
And so, I think of all, the championships that we just kind of forget about, Kevin Durant's 2 championships are kind of the most forgotten about. Second place, though, might be Kyrie Irving's championship that he won, right? Like when you think about Kyrie Irving and you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. Not only did he win a championship in Cleveland, but he hit the biggest shot in the history of the Cleveland Cavaliers organization. And since then, he got a little bit frustrated, left to go to Boston, got frustrated there. We know what happened in Brooklyn and everything else. How big is this next run for Kyrie Irving? Because he does have a ring. He does have a huge moment in NBA Finals history, but it's all kind of forgotten about or maybe overshadowed by what has happened since. This seems like, in terms of legacy, a very important stretch for a guy like Kyrie Irving.
I agree wholeheartedly. And I think, obviously, there's been a lot of drama surrounding Kyrie Irving for a lot of different reasons. And then also, Kyrie Irving just hasn't been as available maybe as many people would have liked him to be since, being pretty far removed now from winning that championship with Cleveland. And I think this is a moment for him to be able to revitalize his career. And it's just one of those situations where when they talk about winning trumps everything, this kind of is that moment for Kyrie Irving. Everything that have kind of left, somewhat of a weird taste in a lot of folks' mouth about Kyrie Irving since winning that championship, because all of kind of the drama that has been surrounding his name since then. I think this is a moment where Kyrie, hasn't said much this season. He's just gone out and produced and played basketball at a really, really high level, and now he is helping, Dallas get back on a deep playoff run and make it to the conference finals and ultimately try to go to the championship and win a ring. I think this is huge for the revitalization of Kyrie Irving's, career. And I think even beyond that, if Kyrie still does, want to kind of, lean into doing more like socio-political stuff or whatever the case may be, I don't knock him for that. But I do think that, having a platform of winning on the basketball court, it might sound crazy, but it'll make him be received a little bit better because he's out there and he's doing his job first and foremost, which is playing the game of basketball. His platform is ascending because he's playing so well. His team is playing so well. And then, people will support you a little bit more because you at least show up to work. You know what I'm saying? There's something to be said about somebody being responsible enough to show up to work rather than kind of just skipping out on work and then trying to kind of take over the world in all of these other different ways and affect and impact the world in all of these different ways as well. Sometimes that's just not as well received. But, hey, he's been showing up to work. He's been quiet for the most part, and he has been playing stellar basketball. And it's obviously showed in his own individual success and the numbers he's putting up and the team's success as well. And I think, again, winning trumps everything. And this is huge for kind of the revitalization of Kyrie Irving's career right now. And shout out to him. I love the way he's playing, and I love that he's still playing because he's so spectacular, and he's a box office superstar in the league.
DEVON Pouncey, you need to be subscribed to and downloading the Wake Up and Win podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at @pounce_station, and you can hear him each and every Tuesday on this program. Hey, battling your own cold game. I appreciate the grit.
Thank you.
The grit,
Yeah.
and we look forward to full strength Pounce coming up next week.
That's right. I plan to be around.
All right, there you go, DEVON Pouncey.
All right,
we have got the RCM mailbag to wrap up the show next. 620 Rip City Radio. All right, time to wrap up the big show. I say the same thing every day. You guys get it. It's the RCM mailbag. Random questions, any subject, any topic. Let's fire it up and get right into it. Sometimes I try to intro it in a different way, and I was like, I got nothing. I got nothing.
Yeah, let's
hope the substance is a little bit better than the presentation, shall we say?
Yeah, let's stick on our topic from earlier to start, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
What's the worst Mountain Dew they came up with?
The grape one.
Why don't I ever try that?
The grape one. I really liked Code Red.
Yeah.
I really liked Mountain Dew Code Red more than I care to admit. Also,
Can I tell you a story?
the orange one,
Oh yeah.
whatever that one was, I don't know what it was called, but they came up with the orange one because I grew up. Some people had Fanta. We had Orange Crush.
Yeah, Crush, man.
I loved Orange Crush
Solid.
so much, and so like orange soda.
Livewire is what that one was called.
The
Orange one.
orange one was Livewire, and it was just like
pretty-
it reminded me of Orange Crush so much. And then they came up with I think a purple one, a grape one.
Be Voltage. That
Could have been
Blue
Yep.
Raspberry.
I'm out on all blue raspberry. Can I just say this right now? I like raspberry. Also, not my favorite of the berries. Like it doesn't make my top 5 berries. But then, like, when did they come up with the idea that we needed blue raspberry? Is it because? Do you think it's because? You think it's because there's too many reds? Strawberry, watermelon, cherry, all red. Fruit punch is red. Do you think they were just like, we have all this raspberry flavor, but we've already got strawberry and watermelon and cherry and fruit punch. They're already all red. Let's create a blue raspberry?
You just said it. I was able to Google it. It was created for that exact reason.
Boom!
Yeah.
Hey, I didn't know that.
Mostly for Italian ice and snow cones, it says is where it got started.
It's because there's just already so many red flavors.
They were able to get a blue one in there.
There's got to get a
Ditto to them for sure.
blue raspberry.
Yeah, not too long ago.
Where are you on snow cones?
Oh, well, yeah.
I feel, dare
prefer,
I say overrated?
I prefer shave ice, Justin.
Yeah.
I'll be enjoying that this next week.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But shave ice is not a snow cone,
Okay.
right? So when I shave ice, it comes in a nice cup, right? And when it melts, it almost gets better.
It's not a little paper cup that leaks and you've got it everywhere.
The juice is not worth the squeeze when it comes to
I'll give you that on snow cone. Okay, yeah, I'll give you that.
Snow cone. We talked about like getting into a maple bar and like you get halfway
yeah.
through the journey and you're like, I should not have done this.
Yeah.
I feel like a snow cone, same way. First couple bites of a snow cone, great.
Mm-hmm.
Then all the good stuff rushes to the bottom, and you would think, oh, well, great. At the end, I'll
No.
be able to have all this good stuff. No, because the bottom is a poorly constructed paper cone that structurally falls apart, and then you're done.
And,
You're done.
We'll stick on this soda trend, Justin. Now fire up that Google machine you got in front of you. Look up Coca-Cola Spiced.
I'm out. I don't even need to see it. I'm out.
Just for the sake of this story. So this it had come out in like the last 2-3 weeks, I want to say. And I was, curious to try it. Horrible.
I'm not surprised.
I brought it up as
raspberry
It was raspberry.
spiced Coca-Cola. Get out of here. Like, get
Tried
right
it,
out of here.
Bad. It was
Coke
bad.
Classic, Cherry Coke. That's it.
Big
That's
miss.
all. We don't need anything else. Vanilla Coke, terrible. It's terrible.
So how can companies afford to like if I was at Coke, right? And I understand Coca-Cola right now, if you're not innovating, you're falling behind.
I disagree, but
Well,
I know what you mean.
In some regard.
I know what you mean.
In some regard.
We
I'm
can
not
innovate and not change the fact that it's...
Here's the thing, Justin.
We
You
still
have
only
to-
want regular Coca-Cola.
You have, and I mean this with all love and respect, you have people like you who are like, soda is terrible.
Not good for you.
And yet,
I still love it, though.
be that as it may, it's like, the generation of me, we just all said, okay, soda's bad for us. And I go, the heck with it. I don't really care. And it looks like Gen Z, that's going to be tougher because Gen Z is more into dirty sodas and the Dutch drinks. And
I don't know what any of those are.
You know what a dirty soda is?
No idea.
So a dirty soda is just adding cream. So it's like
That's terrible.
Justin says it's terrible.
I grow more and more angry at the youth every day. And I didn't realize I could get more angry and that they're adding milk to pop now.
Yeah, it's
I just said it, pop.
Diet Coke or Coke poured over ice, coffee creamer, and flavored syrups.
Okay, can I say something in a minute and a half? Can I say something? To the youth who are probably not listening,
No.
if you are stuck in the car with your parents that are listening, to the youth, that's not any better for you than drinking Mountain Dew,
A
Dr.
classic Coke.
Pepper, or Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
It's not, all right? Coffee creamer sits out at room temperature for months at a time. How do you think it does that?
Hey, mine's in the fridge.
You put it in the fridge all you want, but I bet it's shelf stable.
Well, I buy it from the cold section of the store.
I bet
the
it's-
Coffee Mates, but you're right. It probably could be.
You go to 7-Eleven, get a coffee, and guess what? You grab a creamer.
Would I
It
get
sits.
sick?
It sits at room temperature for months at a time.
Would I get sick if I ate Coffee Mate I left out overnight?
No, you can
No.
leave it out for a year.
You think so? Let's try. I'm gonna try
It's
that.
not dairy.
I'm gonna try that.
Go look at the ingredients list. Nothing on there spoils.
We're gonna do this little experiment because we got a couple
And
more days.
again, I love coffee creamer. All right, I love Coffee Mate. It's not good for you, but I do a handful of things that aren't good for me. But to the youth, that coffee creamer is just as bad as drinking a
So they're trying. I see Coca-Cola.
It's like we take a Diet Coke, which we don't want the sugar, and then let's add more sugar.
Yeah, they're
What
wanting
are
to-
they doing?
They want to rope in the youth. This is a shot and a miss, Justin. Cocoa spiced. If you're listening, do not try it, folks.
Hardest thing in business has got to be to just hold on because it's going to come back around, right? Hey, sales are down. Don't worry, they'll come back around. It's Coca-Cola. You're awesome. Dr. Pepper. Quit putting strawberries and cream in it. You're Dr. Pepper. You're already awesome. All right, that's going to do it for today. Hey, fantastic show, everybody. Thanks to DEVON POUNCEY. Thanks to super producer Brendan. Thanks to all of you. Have a terrific Tuesday. We're back at it bright and early tomorrow morning here on 620 Rip City Radio.